Hey guys, it's Alex, and I'm here with book haul number 3 of the 5 I promised. This one is, again, slightly larger, I believe, as they progressively get larger and larger. You can kind of see the edge of it over here, but I'm just gonna drag it on over so you can get the full view. Huzzah! You guys know, you should know by now, the thrift store I go to that's near where I live, they have a $5 for a box policy. Like normal prices on their books. They're like $1 for a paperback, $2 for a hardback. But we have a lot of books, so if you go ahead and buy a whole box, it's just $5. Which pretty much means if you're buying more than 2 or 3 books, you might as well just get the whole box. And if you get the whole box, you might as well just fill it up. This is my logic. It's pretty sound logic when you have a whole box of books in the store. Not so much when you're trying to fit them on your shelves. Let's get started, shall we? The first book is C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. He's most famous for Narnia, of course. I'm not overly fond of Narnia. I've only read the first one, and that's all I plan to read. It was mandatory reading for class. But I do want to read some of his other works, and this is a book on Christianity, which I'm not Christian, so that's going to be an interesting read. I also picked up Such a Pretty Girl by Laura Weiss. I read this book a long time ago when I was in high school, and it's about a girl whose father raped her. He gets out of prison after only a couple of years, and she's still with her mother, and he sort of gets back together with her mother, and it's about her, dealing with that life and, the trauma she's continuing to go through. Obviously, heavy trigger warnings for this, but I just remember loving it, and I'd really like to give it a reread, because I don't remember too much about why I loved it, just that I did. A Prayer for O and Mimi by John Irving. I've heard so many good things about this book. I have no idea what this is about. I've heard such amazing things from a wide variety of people. I was really happy to find this book at the thrift store because I wanted to read it for such a long time. Unless by Carol Shields. This is a book about a woman whose daughter drops out of college to become a panhandler. No reason, no words, just randomly does it, I believe. And it's sort of about their relationship, learning who her daughter is now that she's becoming an adult in her own right. And I don't know, I'm just making this up. I've read 2 sentences from the paragraph on the back, so I clearly have no idea, but it did look really interesting. I also picked up The Boy Who Dared by Susan Campbell Bartoletti. This is based on a true story, apparently, of a boy in the Hitler Youth who is starting to sort of see that the Hitler Youth is not all it's cracked up to be, and he's seeing the hypocrisy in it. It looks really interesting, and I do like stories set around Nazi Germany and the cultural aspects of that. I think I've mentioned that before. It's just really interesting to me, and this is a little either young adult or middle grade, I'm not sure which, but it looks like it could be really fun and interesting. I haven't actually seen the movie that's based on this book, apparently everyone else in the world has, but it's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. It's science fiction, and I really don't know anything about Philip K. Dick, but my friend really likes him and really likes the movies that are based on his books. I figured this is the pretty standard one to read first, I believe. And I really want to read, start reading a little bit of science fiction, which I say every year, and then I pretty much never do because science fiction intimidates me. But this is a pretty, short book, and then if it really confuses me, I can go watch the movie. Those Who Save Us by Jenna Bloom. This is also set in Nazi Germany. Or not set in Nazi Germany, but it's about a girl who came to America with her mother after they escaped from Nazi Germany when she was 3. Well, they were liberated after World War II, and her mother never talks about it, and because she was only 3, she doesn't remember it, but now she's a professor of German history, and she's sort of looking into it on her own to find out what the truth is, what happened, and, who her family was. It looks really interesting, and I keep saying it, but I really do love books about Nazi Germany. It's such a horrific and fascinating time of history. I also picked up Out of the Dark by Natasha Cooper, which is a thriller about a woman who... a boy... I don't know how to explain this in a way that doesn't sound weird, because it sounds kind of weird. A 5-year-old boy is hit by a car when he's running away from something, and this woman's address and name are found in like his pocket, and everyone thinks she's his mother, but she isn't. And it's sort of like about her dealing with her own struggles, as well as like trying to find out who this boy is and why he had her name and address on him. And it looks interesting. It looks like kind of a standard generic thriller that could be really, really interesting, or it could be awful. And I'm hoping for the former. She seems incredibly famous, being as how her name is bigger than the title. I've never heard of her. Let me know if you have and if she's any good. The Passenger by Lisa Letts. I've heard a lot about this. It's a thriller. I'm not about a woman who like disappears and goes on the run, and I don't know. It's been compared a lot to Gone Girl. Maybe I like it, maybe it'll be interesting. Whether or not, it's quite famous, and I've heard a lot of people on BookTube talking about it. Hopefully I will enjoy this. I know it's a little bit beat up, but like it's still holding together. And I really have like pretty low standards, like the back is all screwed up, but the spine. But I don't really care. Shiver by Lisa Jackson. It's a thriller about a woman who has to return home, and there's a serial killer that she has a past with, and she might become a victim. I don't know. It seems like a pretty standard, generic, trashy thriller. I've never read Lisa Jackson, and I'm always on the lookout for new thrillers. I also picked up 3, I believe just 3. I haven't really thoroughly checked the box, but all I saw was these 3. Agatha Christie books. I have Curtain, Postern of Faith, and They Do It With Mirrors. I don't know what any of these are about. These are not 3 I've heard of, but maybe I will feel pressured to read Agatha Christie now that I own 3 of her books. I say this as if I haven't had this box of books sitting on my floor for months and haven't touched it. I've wanted to read Agatha Christie for a really long time, and I've just never gotten around to her. I picked up yet another Toni Morrison book, Beloved. I haven't read this, I don't really know what it's about, but it's Toni Morrison, and I'm just gonna force myself to read her books, because I remember really not liking The Bluest Eye, but I was about 16 when I read it, and really stupid. So maybe I have matured and grown enough that I can appreciate her books, because I know how amazing she is and all the amazing things she's done. And I just want to be able to fully appreciate her to the extent that she deserves. And to honor a great departed woman, I picked up Surrender the Pink by Carrie Fisher. This is one of her novels, not one of her nonfiction books. I really don't know what it's about. My friend told me not to read anything by Carrie Fisher, but I think she's biased, and I'm going to give this a shot. And hopefully I will like it. I'm a broken record, I say that about every book I get. But I really do hope I like all of these. I also picked up A Stolen Life, which is J.C. Dugard's memoir. She was the woman who was kidnapped when she was kidnapped in the early 90s and held captive for 18 years until she escaped / was rescued. I'm not really sure. I think I was a freshman in high school when the whole story like culminated, so I don't really remember much. But I really do like reading people's memoirs, and maybe this will be interesting. It feels a little voyeuristic. It's a memoir. I'm interested in memoirs. I'm interested in people who have led unique lives, even if those lives are full of horror. There were more Agatha Christie. My bad, y'all. I found 2 more Agatha Christie books. Easy to Kill and By the Pricking of My Thumbs. Again, not a clue what these are about. It would have been easier if I just found all 5 of them at once. I also picked Anthony Lloyd's book, My War Gone By, I Miss It So, which is described as a portrait of war. It's nonfiction. It looks like it's going to be a truly horrifying read. It's about a man who was in the British Army and wound up at the killing fields in Bosnia. It looks absolutely horrifying. That's what everyone says on the back about it, that it's horrifying, and I know very little about the killing fields in Bosnia, so I will learn something from this, even if it's a really heartbreaking thing to read. Candide by Voltaire. I told you guys I bought myself another copy. I'll make sure everyone I know has Candide, and then I will. I also picked up Darkly Dreaming Dexter by Jeff Lindsay, which I believe is the novel the show was based on, or is it a novel based on the show? I'm not sure, because sometimes they go both ways. I have books from Castle that were based on the show, like Castle's books. I have like 3 of them, don't judge me. I love them, in theory I've never read them. I like the show Dexter, sort of, kind of. It was meh. I like the idea of it, so maybe the book will be more interesting, unless it's like literally the first season of the show, in which case maybe not so much. I also picked up The Sound of Music, the story of the Trapp family singers by Maria Augusta Trapp, who is the real woman, I believe, or her daughter, who inspired the Sound of Music movie. Like, these were real people. And they live in, like, Vermont and have, like, a ski lodge or something. And, of course, my camera dies. This is probably significantly more accurate than the movie, but I hope I love it just as much. I also picked up World War Z by Max Brooks. This is a book I've read before, and I honestly really enjoyed it. It's a lot different than most zombie books in that it's not telling one cohesive story. It's sort of telling the story of the whole world in like little bits and pieces, and it's clear that Max Brooks has spent a lot of time thinking about what the zombie apocalypse would be like. I'm not someone who's really into zombie movies or zombie books a lot. Like, the whole zombie craze is like, it's fine, but it's boring. But I really, really enjoyed this book. Like, if you're gonna read any zombie book, I'd recommend this one. I also picked up Still Missing by Chevy Stevens. I read another book by her called Those Girls, which I really didn't enjoy, and I was gonna unhaul it before I realized I picked up this, and I wanted to wait to see if I really liked this, and maybe if I did, then I'd want to keep that one. But for now, I'm keeping both, and it just seems like a pretty interesting, maybe, thriller. I'm a little bit more hesitant considering how much I dislike Those Girls, but maybe this one will be better. We can hope. At some point, getting books set in Nazi Germany is gonna be a problem for me. This is Prisoner of Night and Fog by Anne Blankman. It's about Hitler's niece. I mean, this is straight fiction. This isn't based on anything. This is about Hitler's niece. And basically she meets a Jewish man and she starts to rethink her uncle's sort of whole ideology in the Nazi party, and she's like, well, maybe this isn't how it's supposed to be. I'm not as excited to read this as I am a lot of my other Nazi Germany books because of how fictionalized it is, and this is just straight. I mean, this isn't based in reality at all. But it should still be interesting, hopefully, if it's well done. But I know enough about Nazi Germany that if it's incredibly poorly done, it might really bother me. Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim by David Sedaris. This is yet another of his memoirs, I think, if that's what you could call them. They're just like humorous writings about his life. They're really funny. I really enjoy him. His whole style, his persona. He's really funny. Like, not in the I'm hysterically laughing through the book, but like in that quietly amused the whole time way. And it's just really great. And you can't see the pile of books that I'm creating because I'm just putting them all on the floor. But they're literally reaching up to, like, my chair. It's kind of frightening considering I still have some left. The Buddha Walks into a Bar, A Guide to Life for a New Generation by Ladro Rensler. I don't know anything about this, but it looks like it might be, like, entertaining and it might have a few thought-provoking things. Maybe. I really don't know what this is at all. I picked up Scott Westerfeld's whole series. I think this is his whole series. The Uglies series, Uglies, Pretties, Extras, and Specials. I already had Uglies and Pretties, but I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure, like, if they were in decent condition or if they were, like, roughly the same size as these. So I figured I'd pick them all up and I'll just, like, get rid of 2 of them, whichever 2 is in the worst condition. But I don't think I ever finished this. Maybe. I know I read the first 2, and I know I read one of the other ones. I don't know which is first. Because I think originally it was a duology, and then he, like, added extras and specials. I want to say, unless I'm just making that up, which I could be. I want to give this series a reread, because I did really like it when I was in middle school. I might have read it. My childhood, y'all. Did anyone else read this series? It was really popular, I think. I haven't actually thought about it in a long time. It was just such an interesting concept with, like, people being made pretty and vapid as soon as they turn, like, 16 or 18 or something. And the final book I have for this haul is Endless Love by Scott Spencer. I saw the movie that was based on this book, and from what I read, the movie completely ruined it and, like, lost the point entirely. Because the movie was just like a basic rom-com where this guy is in love with this girl and they're like Romeo and Juliet and their parents are trying to keep them apart. Or the girl's parents are trying to keep him away from her. And they sort of like fight to stay together and he like fights really hard for this girl. And apparently this book is similar in that that's what he thinks is going on. But the girl, he's actually stalking this girl. She's tried to break up with him several times and he's just not listening. And apparently it's like this really creepy obsession. The movie was kind of crap. But from what I've read of the book, this might be amazing. And I've honestly been looking for this book for a couple of years now. And I was so excited I found it and actually remembered it and was like, yes, I've wanted to read this and I never have. And this is probably going to be a book I read not too far in the future. Just instantly, after seeing that movie and hearing what people said about it and how different the book was, and the book had an entirely different point, it just desperately made me want to read the book. So that is it for my book haul, guys. Now I have to find space on my shelves somewhere for like the ridiculous stack of books that managed to fit in this box. I didn't quite realize how many books were in here, but if I'd put The Uglies and Endless Summer on top of the stack, it'd be up to here from the floor. That's ridiculous. I have a problem. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. Warn me if they're horrific. Tell me if they're amazing so I can put them towards the top of my list. I'm really looking forward to some of these, especially Endless Summer. And I've only got 2 more book hauls left. 2 more giant ones, and now I'm realizing that they're bigger than this box, and this box was really, really big. So I'm concerned for my bookshelves. Bye, guys.